Hello and welcome back everyone to another episode of Umineko. My name's Lorelei, and the last time we left off, we saw Natsuhi's lonely scene that was viewed without love by the two witches. And then we ended off with Jessica in her room. So without further ado, let's just get right into today's episode. After dashing to her bedroom, Jessica answered the phone call that had been transferred there.
もしもしお待たせバートラー
Battler?
6年も音沙汰なしとはどういうつもりだ
Oh, okay.
久しぶりだなお、そうなのか知るかよそんなのうぜえぜ
So it's the first time Battler contacted them since 6 years ago. Okay.
じゃあ今年の親族会議はちゃんと来るわけだろ ?6 年ぶりだな
5 businessmen in expensive suits were visiting the parlor, giving Krause and Natsuhi a progress report on their business. Spread out on the table were blueprints and designs for a building, as well as documents related to expenditures and the like. So packed that even a teacup would have gotten in the way. Officially, they were here to give Krause a progress report, but in actuality, Krause had called them all the way over to Rokkenjima so that Natsuhi could hear from them directly. This was because Natsuhi needed to hear someone other than her husband explain what condition their business was in. Natsuhi is surprisingly really on top of these things. And I think you could kind of tell from like the last few episodes in episode 5, but I am just a little bit surprised because of how incompetent Krause always treats Natsuhi. But in actuality, she is way more capable than anyone in the family actually gives her credit for. Because not only is she on top of this business, but she's also on top of the household planning chores thing, the schedule and the servants. In short, even though another family conference without Kinzo was approaching, their business had not yet earned them any money, as expected of Krause. After telling the guests to wait for a short while and make themselves at home, Krause took Natsuhi out into the hall and once again summarized the situation.
つまり、我々の想像をはるかに超えて、事業は素晴らしくうまくいっていると彼らは言っているのだ。
Proceed much better than we imagine is not necessarily a good line, because I assume they were not expecting much at all.
ここで私と知事との私的なコネクションが大きく効いてきた。もはや絶対に釣り落とすことはない。それどころか、例の委任状だけでなく、これまでの損失さえも一気に取り戻すことが可能なくらいの大きな話になりつつあるのだ。
Krause, honestly, seems a little delusional. Krause spoke passionately. This made things seem all the more suspicious to Natsuhi. But this time, at least, she had to admit that everything really did seem to be going well. Certainly, this business Krause boasted of had expanded in scope over the last year and was promising an even greater payoff than had been anticipated in the beginning. Investors were gathering, jumping on the bandwagon on their own accord, and the business was rapidly gathering funds. It was a perfect example of the saying, money makes money. This was probably the greatest success of Krause's life so far. No, it would probably become his greatest success yet. That point was where Natsuhi's misgivings lay. True, it was certain, as Krause had said, they wouldn't lose this catch now. However, the fish on the line had gotten too big.
必ず釣り上げられる魚だ。何も焦る必要はないのだよ。親父が生きていたなら、ぜひ見せて誇りたいほどの大成功なのだ。
Hey, you saying this out in the open, buddy? Don't say that.
ええ、それは分かっています。ですがあなたは昨年、私に約束したはずです。必ず1年で何とかできると。
Well, it's still kind of nice that Kraus is an optimist. Really, he's really optimistic. Even though they didn't reach a target within a year, he still sees a bright side of things. Or maybe he has to, and that's why he says all this. I mean, he kind of has to appease Natsuhi because she's really anxious about it, and rightfully so. But I guess it's still kind of nice to see Krause's more optimistic side. A pained look rose to Krause's face. They certainly had hooked a fat fish that guaranteed a great success. However, it would require an appropriate amount of time to reel it in. Natsuhi pressed Krause, asking if there was any way for them to make money before this year's family conference, but Krause kept saying that they needed just one more year, and that one more year might just turn into another 3-4 years. Krause planned to use his unprecedented success as a springboard to future endeavors. Because of this, he didn't want to do anything that would raise suspicions by making it seem like they were rushing to get money. He's not wrong. Certainly, fortune tends to turn against people who take it for granted, even in the slightest. There's a saying about hasty anglers. On many occasions before now, Krause had gotten cold feet and sold businesses that would surely have brought in a profit had he just waited, and had, in fact, given away his winning picks. Natsuhi also knew this. She knew that guts were the things her husband lacked most. That was why she was unable to refuse when Krause said he wanted to prudently wait just one more year. Because it shows that he has the guts to wait that long instead of pulling out? Okay, it's Kinzo, the Kinzo that doesn't exist.
順調でよかったではないか。ということはどうやら私はもうしばらくここで幽霊を続けねばならぬようだな。
まんざらでもなかろうが、そなたの命などこの世を去ればすぐに悪魔どもに食い尽くされる運命よ。
If Beatrice and Kinzo doesn't exist, then I wonder if all these talk about being chewed to bits by demons, which we have seen before in the previous episodes, is a reflection of the conjurer's mind, but at the same time it can't be, right? Because Natsuhi has been shown to love Kinzo. Unless of course this is...
お父様。
Sorry, unless of course this is Beatrice's imagination. But I don't know. I don't know, because it feels like, I mean, Natsui's here and she's talking to Kinzo, but at the same time, all the talk about, you know, the gruesome way of dying doesn't really seem like Natsuhi.
また今年もお父様にはお休みいただけないかもしれません。
よい、気にするな夏日。後ろ宮家当主はすでに私ではない。書斎の幽霊はおとなしく、現在の当主の命令に従うべきだ。
Well, this line certainly doesn't sound like it'd be Kinzo. But then again, I don't think we've ever met a real Kinzo, right? So this could just be Natsuhi's, you know, imagination. The words that she wants to hear from a Kinzo that she imagines. I don't know.
クラウスの資料は読ませてもらったが、なかなかに悪くない。
お父様からご覧になってもですか？
わらわから見てもなかなかのものよ。誰もが勝利を確信し、相当の魔力が集中している。その結果、さらに勝利が熱くなり、ますますに人と魔力を集め、黄金を生み出そうとしている。錬金術の王道を見事に体現しているぞ。
ほう、黄金の魔女の太鼓判までつくなら、これは心強い。喜べ、夏日。このクラウスの事業は、必ずや後ろ宮家の危機を救うだろう。
ありがとうございます。そして そのためにまた。
もう一度親族会議を乗り越えねばならんな。
ええ、昨年はうまくやり過ごせたつもりですが、不審に思う親族も現れるでしょう。今年は正念場になると思います。
去年の親族会議の時、ひょっとしたらもう一度同じことになるかもしれぬと予見したそなたは、
最悪のケースを想定するのは魔女ならずとも世渡りの基本だ。それで今年はどうする？
去年同様、会議当日はお父様の秘密を知る使用人を集中的に配置します。
Oh, okay. It's starting to make a bit more sense, I guess. As for why there's, these sets of servants being Canon, Shannon, Genji, and Kumasawa. I don't know if Goda knows of the secret. Was Goda there? Goda wasn't there, right? Yeah, Goda wasn't in the room, but I'm not sure if Goda knows. But that would make sense why these 5 specifically were never changing, even though it has been said multiple times that there are many more servants that serve the Ushinomiya family.
お父様の不在を気取る親族もすでにいるかもしれません。不用意な演出はむしろ馬脚を表す危険性もあります。
過ぎたるは及ばざるがごとしとも言う。なればどうする？
今年は昨年とは逆に、最後まで書斎をお出にならないという筋書きでいこうと思います。
それがよかろうな。籠城は単純にして最後の切り札だ。
どれほど屋敷が毒素に満ちようとも、この部屋を密室結界に閉ざす限り、金蔵の存在を否定することはできぬ。
I wonder if that's what they meant by a locked room barrier. That the act of not everyone being able to get into Kinzo's study, because, I mean, it was shown before that he doesn't like people visiting him, right? But I wonder if that alone is the locked room barrier against, I guess, the anti-magic toxin and maybe even magic itself.
それはわらわも保証する。だが、籠城すれば囲まれるは必至。
承知しています。それでも何卒もう一度だけ
私は新しき当主の命令には逆らえぬ。そして幽霊もまた聖者の命令には逆らえぬしな。この部屋から出るなというのであればそれに従おう。
ありがとうございます。
わらわは嫌だぞ。力を貸せと願われても願いごときでは聞いてやれぬ。
ええ、あなたは顧問錬金術師ですから、貸せと願いません。貸しなさいと命じます。あなたの魔法だけが頼りです。その力でもう一度だけお父様の幻想を。
ならばよし。
Natsuhi's really suited to the role of the head.
心得たぞ。そなたの貫禄、なかなかに心地よし。
From the shadows of the study, Battler watched the exchange between these 3.
なるほどな。そして今年の親族会議を迎えるわけだ。じい様は不機嫌だからと書斎に閉じこもり、誰の前にも姿を現さない。
Natsuhi spoke boldly, saying that she would find a way to overcome this year's crisis and protect the Ushinomiya family honor to the end. Kinzo praised her, saying that he was relieved to hear it and trusted her to succeed. Beato also praised her, saying that Natsuhi's dignity was even more fitting for the family head than Krause's. However, right now, the true number of people in this room was... At the same time I thought that, no, just because I thought that, Beato grabbed her chest and moaned. The real one?
安心しろ。 ここはゲーム版のまだ外だ。
Oh, okay, I see. Because Butler thought that, and he was getting closer to the truth, Beatrice got hurt.
だから俺はそこにいるお前やじいさまを否定はしない。
As Beato tried to hold back the pain deep inside her chest, I put my hand on hers. I already told Brincastle. Denying the witch's illusion in just the 2-day period of the 1986 family conference is enough.
お前は前回全ゲームの開始時にじいさまが死んでることを赤で宣言した。しかしゲーム開始以前のじいさまの生死については言及していない。つまり今この場にじいさまが存在していても何の矛盾もないってわけだ。
That is true. My hand that was touching her let off a faint blue light, which seeped into her chest. That light tenderly wrapped itself around the splinters in Beato's chest.
そしてこの場にいるベアトリーチェの存在だって否定することはできない。ゲーム版の外、すなわち1986年10月4日以前の島の人数については赤で宣言されていないんだ。だからここにベアトリーチェが存在しても何もおかしいことはない。
I really like how empathetic Battler is as a character, because even though he's supposed to kill Beatrice, and I think I've said this before, but he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to make her suffer, essentially. I mean, at the end of the day, I guess he still has to kill her. And as part of his promise to Beatrice, he has to kill her so that she can end her own suffering. But Battler doesn't want to do it haphazardly or without love. He wants to make sure that he treats Beatrice as a person with dignity instead of just killing her without any thought at all. And I think that's really wonderful and speaks volumes of Battler as a character. Even if Beatrice in the previous games had killed his family members many times over, had acted unnecessarily cruel, but at the same time she also showed some sort of conscience, I guess, in her actions, although I don't know how much of that was faked for episode 3's finale, where she tricks Battler. I don't know how much of it is faked. I still want to believe that Beatrice is just misguided. Oh? The light in her eyes came back and she's crying, tearing up. Beato's expression softened slightly. My blue light slowly started to melt the red splinters that denied the witch illusion. Oh, but she's back again. Beato still wore the same sad expression, but she lifted her face and looked me right in the eye. Even though she was silent, her eyes told me that the pain had gone away. The feelings that she showed in her eyes were gratitude for taking the pain away, and appreciation, or was it surprise, that I had left even a tiny bit of leeway for witches to exist. Unable to look directly at those pure eyes of hers, I automatically averted my gaze.
誤解すんなよ。魔女の存在を認めたり、あるいは屈したつもりもねえ。俺はお前とのゲームに勝つために、その部分だけに徹してストイックに戦いたいってわけだぜ。ゲーム版の外でまで嫌がらせをするほど趣味は悪くねえからな。
Beato hung her head. I was still facing away from her. However, we waited wordlessly for a while, my hand still in hers. By now, no one would believe that this woman with sad eyes was the same person as that prideful Beato. So I asked once more. Even though I said it aloud, it wasn't a question to her. I was asking myself.
お前は、一体、何を考えていたんだ？そうさ。俺はラムダデルタのゲームを通じてでも、お前を探さなくちゃならない。お前が何を考え、何をしようとしていたのかもな。
Very soon, this game will also reach October 4th, 1986. The fifth game will finally begin. And this time, I'll reach the end. The end of that journey.
殺人がとか、トリックがとか、そういう上辺だけじゃない。お前が。黄金の魔女ベアトリーチェが、何を考え何のためにそうしたのか、何を望んでいたのか、それを、たどる。
That's right. I already know the method for reaching the end of that journey. And I've been shouting it since the very beginning.
今こそチェス盤をひっくり返そう。この物語を、俺側からじゃなく、お前側からの目線で、物語を紐解く。
I still from time to time think about what the text in Flavor 1, why did I say that? In episode 1 said, which was that Battler already holds the method of killing Beatrice, or at least finding out the truth, in the palm of his hand. I don't know if that's like a wordplay in Japanese or if it's meant literally, but it's interesting to take note, I guess, because if I'm not wrong, the word for palm has the word heart, the character for heart in it, right?
そして今度こそ、お前を理解しよう。そしてお前の心臓にたどり着く。痛みなんか感じさせない。安心しろ。あの魔女どものおもちゃになど。も
う。Beato looked up at me again and gave me a small nod. That's right. The position of the Game Master might have been snatched up by Lambda Delta. However, as long as I continue this contest with the intent of fighting against Beato, our fight will continue no matter who controls the game board. Very soon, the curtain will rise on our game.
今年の親族会議でも親方様の秘密を隠さねばならん。
はい、心得ております。
同じ手がもう一度通じるか疑問だな。
奥様も同じご懸念を持たれている。そのため今年は書斎から一切お出にならない方向で行くことになった。
つまりずっと書斎にこもられていることにするというわけですか？
うん。そして書斎に入ることが許されているのは我ら3人。片翼の翼を許された使用人だけだ。
ということは僕たち3人で親方様の嘘を突き通さなくちゃならないわけか。
そうだ。親族の方々は親方様の具合や機嫌などを問い詰めてくるだろう。よどみなく答え、不審に思われることがなきよう注意。
はい、心得ました。
姉さんはすぐドジるからな。むしろ当日は風邪か何か理由をつけて欠席した方がいいんじゃない？
そんなひどい。
Cannon wasn't just saying that to make fun of Shannon. He simply wanted to release her from the stresses they would face that day as they took on the critical task of concealing Kinzo's death.
源氏様、シャノンがシフトに入る必要はないのでは？僕たちだけで十分やります。
それはできん。奥様から我ら3人は必ずシフトに入るようにとの言命だ。
はい、やり遂げる覚悟です。
ドジらないでよ。
ドジりません。
Shannon grew sullen and Cannon shrugged. Then Genji told them that they weren't taking this seriously enough.
シャノン、カノン。すでにお仕えする親方様はお亡くなりになっている。しかし、本当の意味でお亡くなりになるまで、我らの奉仕は続く。あの書斎は無人ではない。今なお、親方様がおられ、
日々の研究に勤しまれているのだ。それを深く心得よ。
はい、源氏様。
Oh?
お父様がすでに亡くなっている。
Oh? Holy shit, what?
そんなバカな。
This kind of changes everything about what happens on the day of the family conference now.
まあまあ。
You know what? I've been kind of thinking about this, but why did Eva do that? Do you remember when Eva placed the receipt in the Kinzo study door? Right? I mean, if Eva was suspecting Natsuhi, or Eva was suspecting that someone is covering up Kinzo's death, then yeah, for sure, she would do that. It makes so much sense now.
例えの話や。武田信玄はその死を3年の間秘密にするよう遺言したっちゅう有名な故事があるやろ。
Okay, but it's not... They don't know it, they just suspect it because of Hideyoshi's line of reasoning, which is also, well, not wrong.
知らんか？
そんな話もあったかしら。日本史はよくわかんないわ。
当時武田は織田や徳川との戦の真っ最中だった。そこで信玄が死んだなんて話になったら戦況に悪影響が出るやろ。
And the war here now is the family conference.
そやから自分の死を3年隠すように遺言したんや。秀吉かてそうやで。主君織田信長の死を敵方に知られんように徹底的に情報規制を行い、素早く毛利と和解して中国大返しを行い明智を撃ったんやないか。一方の柴田勝家はそこで失敗したんや。敵の上杉に信長の死を知られ、思わぬ反撃を受けて足止めを食らい、その後の秀吉との後継者争いで大きく遅れを取ることになったんや。
Hideyoshi, who had a strong fascination with the commanders of the Sengoku period, would always show off his knowledge whenever he got the chance. Wincing slightly, Eva made him get back to his point.
早い話が、わしは去年の親族会議からずっと違和感を取ったんや。
あれは私やルドルフが遺産の話をしてたのを廊下のお父様に聞かれてしまって、それで。
そこや。夏井さんや使用人たちはどこそこにお父さんがいた。わしら親族は誰一人お父さんを見てないんやで。
Oh, guess last year's plan wasn't that good.
もしあなたの想像が本当ならどういうこと？兄さんが遺産の独り占めを狙ってるということ？
もちろん死んだことを隠すなんてかなり危険なことや。果たして遺産を独り占めするためだけにそれだけのことをクラウスさんがやってのけるのか。だが可能性はある。
確かに兄さんは昔から強欲よ。兄弟全員でと受け取ったものを着服するなんてよくあることだったわ。
クラウスさんはわしら兄弟の中では一番裕福なはずや。そんなクラウスさんがお父さんの死を隠すなんて危険を冒してまで遺産の独り占めを目論むとは、わしにはちょいと信じられんのだがな。だがそう疑いたくなるくらい去年の親族会議はおかしかったんやで。
Eva and the others were painfully aware of how reckless it would be to try to see Kinzo knowing that he was in a bad mood. So ever since hearing about Kinzo getting into a terrible mood during last year's family conference, they never actively tried to contact him. That was why, until this very day, it hadn't occurred to them to find it suspicious that Kinzo never showed himself.
確かに疑ってみる価値はあるわね。でも本当に兄さんがお父様の死を隠すなんて大それたことをするかしら。傲慢なくせにおかしなところで小心な人よ。
そんな一世一代の大博打を本当にするかしら。
いずれにせよ今年の会議ではきっちりお父さんのご尊顔を拝謁した方がええやろな。
非常に良くない噂さ。どうやら兄貴の事業は俺たちの想像を超えて手ひどく失敗してるらしい。相当の損失を抱えてて表向きを取り繕うだけで精一杯らしい。
つまりクラウスさんからお金を借りるのはとても難しいことというわけね。
ああ、泣けてくる。
クラウスさんにとって経済的に困窮していることはある種の弱みにはならないの？
弱みそりゃ投資家は超えてるから投資家なんだぜ。実は金欠だなんてことになったら誰も見向きもしねえ。
信用第一の世界なのね。
Kiria smiled thinly. Rudolph was taken aback by that smile. He had figured that his plan, which involved raising money to get him out of his current mess by borrowing from the affluent Kraus, would all come to nothing now that they knew Kraus himself was in financial trouble.
クラウスさんの信用はクラウスさんのこれからのお仕事に必要だろうけれど、私たちのこれからには必要ないわ。
兄貴をゆするってのか。
私だったら嫌よ。血のつながった兄弟を貶めるなんて。
Rudolph felt a shiver go up his spine at Kiria's cold smile, not to mention what Kiria did also to, I guess, her own sister. At times, Kiria was able to throw away all compassion and think in an extremely ruthless manner. Whenever he felt that, Rudolph thought about how he never wanted to have her as his enemy.
他に金策があるなら、お兄さんを脅迫なんてしたくないものだわ。
あったら悩んだりしね
え。選択の余地のない問題で悩むのは人生の無駄だと思わない？
Rudolph stopped talking, folded his arms, and lowered his gaze. Even now, Rudolph had a kind of fear of Kraus due to his violence when they were young. And now Rudolph would be the one to threaten him. That meant Rudolph would also have to fight against his childhood trauma. So to give her husband a little push, Kiria smiled reassuringly, and perhaps coldly.
つくづく信用で仕事をしたくないものだわ。信用ほど積み上げるのに苦労して失う時が一瞬なんて割の合わない投資はない。
そうだな。世の中100の信用より1枚の診察だ。
クラウスさんが大きな損失を出していると言っても、私たちの急場をしのぐためのお金くらいは十分用意できるはず。もちろんクラウスさんのこれまでの信用を換金してお金を作ってもらうことになるけれど、
こいつはやばい話になるな。
十分な備えが必要よ。私たちには時間も失敗も許されてない。そうだったわね。私の京都の友人たちにそういうのを洗うのが上手な人たちがいるわ。あまり世話になりたくない連中なんだけど、一度会ってもらってもいい？領収書は切れないけど、きっと投資に見合うだけのものを調べ上げてくれるわ。
ええ。
Rosa.
マリアも元気よ。そちらは大きなお世話よ。ありがとう。え？さあ、スケジュールを見てみないとわからないけど。
Rosa was talking to Rudolph over the phone. Rosa rarely received calls from her older siblings, so she braced herself for something serious.
実はな、次の親族会議についてちょいと兄貴抜きで意見を調整したいんだ。
Alright, so this is where they started planning and scheming about Krause's business failures and trying to get the inheritance and the money and all that.
エヴァ姉さんとルドルフ兄さんと私の3人で頭痛の増えそうな話ね。
She only speaks like that to Rudolph. She will definitely never speak like that to Eva.
電話じゃ詳しくは話せない。だが、
お前にとって聞く価値のある話のはずだ。
それはいい話？
もちろん姉貴は乗り気だぜ。
姉さんが？
ローザには賛同してほしいだけだ。金を出せとかそういう話じゃない。俺たち3人が全員結束してることがまず大事なんだ。わかるな。
Rosa let out a sigh. She did so because in the past, when Rudolph and Eva got into a fight with Kraus, they often used a tone like this to drag her into it.
先に教えて。その話は私も得をする話よね。
ああ、俺たち3人で2億ずつせしめる。
I think it's just insane that they are all so old already, as in like they're all, adults, but they still act like little kids, emotionally and, well, everything.
うまくいけばそれ以上も引っ張れるかもしれない。お前の借金それでチャラだろ。
それはいつまでにせしめられるの？
もちろん年度内で。俺も助かる。姉貴も助かる。そしてローザも助かるってわけだ。三方丸く収まる。
姉さんが話に乗るくらいには勝算があるのね。
話を聞く気になったか。ちょいと急だが、次の日曜日の19時に銀座のお前のお気に入りの喫茶店で会おう。俺と姉貴の予定がそこでしか会わねえ。問題ないか
？2億捻出できる話なら聞かないわけにはいかないわ。では次の日曜日の午後7時にレオポルドで。
マリアちゃんによろしくね。連れてきてもいいんだぜ。
あの子の前でお金の話はやめて。
Well, she set the receiver down to clunk a little violently. Apparently, either Eva or Rudolph had gotten a hold of one of Kraus's weak points. I'm just still thinking about why Rosa got so angry about bringing up money in front of Maria. Still, I really feel that Rosa does still care for Maria. And so she doesn't want to discuss, the dirty adult businesses in front of her. Yet at the same time, she also struggles with loving Maria. And yeah, I just don't know what to make of it. They were probably thinking of threatening him with that at the next family conference and forcing him to pay money. Even before hearing the details, she knew full well that it could be nothing good. But even so, this was a once-in-a-lifetime chance to pay back her large debts. Rosa took a notebook out of her handbag and went to fill in the day as she would be meeting with Rudolph and Eva. Then she frowned and smacked herself hard in the forehead, because written there was DZL with Maria. Maria was in her room playing around excitedly with Sakutaro and the others. It was because her mother was going to take her to the amusement park that had just been built. Oh, Disneyland on Sunday. Oh no, poor Maria. Looking at the clock, Rosa saw that it was just past 9 o'clock at night. Maria was breaking the lights out rule. After covering her face and agonizing for a while, Rosa stood up and stomped over to Maria's room. The room was almost certainly a mess as well. At least tonight, that was convenient. As she stood outside the door to Maria's room, listening to the happy laughter seeping through. Okay, now I see where this is going. She's gonna use that as an excuse to punish Maria and say that because Maria broke the rules and her room is so messy that they can't go to DZL, and so she can make time. It's still, it's such a, immature way of going about this thing. She can't admit the real reason. Of course, it will look bad on her, but she can't even do that act, I guess. Coward. Rosa's face twisted in anguish once again, and she looked at the floor. I see. So, I feel like Rosa is definitely struggling with going through with this, and you can kind of see it in her. The angel and the devil in this case, it's kind of like a devil and a devil on her shoulder, and she doesn't know what to do. When she raised her head again, her brow furrowed and her face had become an ugly expression of anger. I don't want to see this. Thunder? I'm glad we didn't get to see the scene. I think it might have been really hard. But we all know what is implied, I guess. The weather wasn't looking very good. The weekend forecast had said that there was a high likelihood of a tropical cyclone growing into a large typhoon. If it was true that premonitions tended to be right, then this year's family conference would probably take place in absolutely horrible weather. In fact, Natsuhi wished that a typhoon large enough to stop boat travel to the island would seal Rokkenjima away forever. If that happened, she would be able to keep Kinzo's death hidden as long as she wanted.
台風が彼らを永遠に遠ざけてくれればいいのに。
Natsuhi let out a deep sigh. Just doing that made her headache throb. As the day of the family conference approached, the intensity of her headache just kept on increasing. At the time, the phone rang. Natsuhi turned the television off and picked up the receiver.
はい。
お休みのところ申し訳ございません。源氏でございます。
何事ですか？
奥様に外線からお電話でございます。ですが、名前をお名乗りになられません。
That's scary.
名乗らない？
はい。先方は話せばわかるとは申しておりますが、いかがしますか？いたずらかもしれません。
どんな相手です？
おそらく
Oh?
若い男性ではないかと。
No, who?
お心当たりはございませんか？
若い男性。
Natsuhi didn't have a clue who that might be. In the first place, there was no one amongst her acquaintances who would do something as rude as refusing to state their name. And on top of that, a young man? Battler from the future? No, I'm just kidding, I don't know. Natsuhi thought that as a wife, it wasn't right for her to have connections with men other than her husband, much less a young man. It might be considered suspicious. The phone call suddenly seemed like something dirty. But at the same time, she was more interested than ever in what this person wanted to tell her. Could it be that there was some kind of trouble related to Krause's business? What if there was some particular reason that they needed to talk to Krause's wife instead of Krause directly? No matter what the message, it was her duty as a wife to hear it and relay it to Krause. If it was some kind of extortion attempt, she would have to firmly refuse and inform Krause that she had received a phone call like this. If the call was something irritating, then she just had to tell Genji to never again send her a call if the caller refused to state their name. Thinking this, Natsuhi told Genji, who was offering to hang up after all, to connect her to this person. And she set the receiver down. After a short while, the phone rang again.
もしもし。
This wasn't the internal line. It was the external phone line which Genji had transferred to her. I was waiting with bated breath. So it should already have been connected directly to the mysterious men. However, the person on the other end didn't respond to her. Not liking this at all, Natsuhi spoke one more time, sounding displeased.
もしもし？誰ですか？名を名乗りなさい。
What? It sounds like Battler. She heard something that sounded like a sigh. She automatically gulped. After remaining silent for a little longer, the man finally answered. It sounds like Battler. Doesn't it? I'm not wrong, right? That was the first time the man had spoken.
どれくらいぶりになるんだ？一体何年ぶりかな？
It is Battler.
何の話です？あなたは誰ですか？
The voice certainly did sound like that of a young man, but it was a bit hard to figure out much about a person just by their voice over the phone. He sounded like a young adult, but he might actually have been of middle school age, or an adult whose voice still hadn't deepened. In fact, it might have been premature to assume this person was a male at all. However, one thing was certain. though this person spoke to Natsuhi in such a familiar and casual manner, Natsuhi had absolutely no idea or clue who it was.
俺が誰かを名乗るのは簡単だ。だが、それでは俺があまりに悲しい。
It'd be funny if this tense phone call turned out to be something really lighthearted at the end.
何を言っているのか分かりかねます。あなたは誰ですか？そして私に何の用ですか？それが言えないなら興味はありません。切りますよ。
俺の望みはあんたに思い出してもらうことだ。
It's such a familiar line. Isn't that what Beatrice wants of Battler as well? To remember his sin?
何を思い出せというのですか？あなたなど知りませんし、思い出すような心当たりもありません。
そんなこと言うなよ。俺はあんたの子供じゃないか。
Huh? Excuse me? Huh? What?
何ですって？
Whoa, what?
あなたは何を言っているんです？
Okay, I'm like 99% sure that's Battler. Battler is Natsuhi's child?
そんな悲しいこと言うなよ。母さん。
Well, honestly, it doesn't sound like Battler would say these kind of things, so maybe it's not Battler, but it sounds like Battler. The unsettling word thrust itself mercilessly into the depths of Natsuhi's heart and started churning it about. In Natsuhi's entire life, no one had ever said anything so unsettling to her. In her bewilderment, Natsuhi felt her heart beat so loudly that it felt like it would explode.
あなたに母と呼ばれる覚えはありません。何のつもりか知りませんが、もう切りますよ。
俺は復讐するために帰ってきたんだ。あんた19年前の
Natsuhi's mind went blank, and beyond the sound of the wind howling outside the window, she most certainly heard the roar of the sea from that day.
あんた本当はもう思い出してるんだろ。
何の話かわからないと言っています。
So, something happened, huh?
もう二度とかけないでください。
The roar of the sea. Did she try to kill her own child? A child that perhaps didn't belong to Kraus?
19年前にあんたがした仕打ちを俺は忘れない。だからあんたを呪うためにあえてそれでもいやだからこそ俺はあんたを母さんと呼ぶよ。もうすぐ親族会議じゃないか。俺も母さんの子供だからね。会議の日に帰るよ。19年ぶりにね。あんたに復讐するために。
Click! Breathing so hard her shoulders heaved, Natsuhi slammed the receiver down and hung up. And she hit the phone violently, knocking the receiver off, so that there was no chance of the man calling back. I can hear the roar of the sea. The voice I'm hearing from beyond the howling wind must be... no matter how I cover my ears, the headache won't... Completely pale, Natsuhi kept shivering as though cold.
Ramuda, いる？ええ、いるわよ。ベルンが望めばどこにでも。じゃあ台所の床下収納に入ってて、ぬかみその壺の中でもいいわ。ああ、私を味噌につけてかじってくれるの？でもそれなら蜂蜜につけてほしいものだわ。お返しにベルンは砂糖水で煮込んであげる。せめて砂糖醤油とみりんにして。それで何？副賞要求でも気取っちゃう？そうよ。この夏日の電話のやり取りは事実。
Lambda Delta grinned unpleasantly as though sizing Moncastle up. She was probably trying to tease Moncastle by taking her time on a repetition request.
復唱拒否さーてね拒否か応じるかどうしよっかなそれを決めるのはゲームマスターの私の自由だしその判断をいつするかさえ自由青字宣言でない限りあんたに答える義務はないしねそういうこと今はせいぜい夏日の19年前に一体どんな秘密がとワクワクテカテカしてなさい
Of course, this fishy telephone call occurs before October 4th, 1986. This is still before the start of the game. So it's not necessary to question whether it's true or false in the first place. True? Yeah, that's true.
ゲームマスターのあんたがわざわざ見せた以上何騙しかもしれないけれど一応あんたのこの察しては記憶に留めておくこのカードを伏せたまま場に出すってやつねまあいいか何ダイレクトアタック
After suddenly being conked on the head, Lambda Delta was bewildered. But perhaps this incomprehensible exchange was funny to her, because she quickly went back to giggling.
これであんたのゲーム版の準備は十分ええそうよそれじゃあいよいよゲームを進めるわよ1986年10月4日にね何度目の1986年10月4日かしらね無限の魔女かベアトリーチェやはり恐ろしい子だわベルン側は何か行動あるないわよあんたが復唱要求に応えないならターンエンドねスタートクリーンアップドローさあ来たれ1986年10月4日
Why are they treating it like some sort of card battle game? I knew it. It's gonna end here. Jeez, what a phone call though. This is something I want to talk about a bit more, I think. Just who is it? 11 a.m. Oh, Erika. Is that the girl? Don't tell me that's the phone call?
やっぱりこのバラ庭園は圧巻だぜ。
Alright, I'm gonna end here for today. Thank you so much for sticking with me today. We definitely ended with a huge cliffhanger at the end of the episode with Natsuhi's mysterious phone call from her child 19 years ago. And like Natsuhi said, that we can't ascertain really who the person on the other end was. To me, it sounded like it was Battler, the way that they were speaking, but I might be wrong. And if I'm wrong, then you can just have a hearty laugh at me getting confused at the phone call. But at the same time, it made me think about how Asumu may not be Battler's mother, and if it was Natsuhi, then it would kind of make sense as well. I don't know, but the phone call definitely is gonna live in my mind, but I'm gonna guess it's also kind of a red herring, and maybe we don't need to think too much about it, you know? But yeah, that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of today's episode. If you like this video, give it a like. If you don't like it, just give it a dislike. And I'll be out of here. Thank you for sticking by, and bye-bye.